views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Good evening and welcome to BronxTalk. I thought I would start this program by telling you a firsthand story about me, and I'm guessing it's about a lot of people in the Bronx. When the pandemic hit, everything shut down. Like, I'm still alive. I want to get out. I want to do something. Where can I possibly go? There was no place to go to congregate with friends. There were no restaurants. There was, it was shut down. So I found for myself and my wife, we ended up spending a lot of time in our local park. For us, it happens to be Cortlandt Park. So we walked, we got the fresh air, we got a little bit of exercise. We had plenty of social distancing, so we didn't have to go near anybody. And it occurred to me over the course of time and through the long period of time that we were shut down, that the real answer for health, for all the other things that we need in the borough of the Bronx is located in all of our neighborhoods. We call it the borough of parks for a reason. The real answer is in our parks. Then I look down at the numbers that start coming out and I see an $80 million in critical funding that was cut from parks last year. And maybe some of that has been restored, but I don't think we're where we need to be. And then I said, well, then let's use the bully pulpit, so to speak, of BronxTalk and BronxNet television and bring some of the borough's most fierce parks advocates onto the program. And let's talk about how our vital, most important parks are doing. And that's what we're going to do this evening. There are many, let's be clear, there are many more advocates and many other parks that we could talk about. But, we only got a half hour and we wanted to fill it up with some great people. So these are the three we have. So good evening to Stephanie Ehrlich, who's the executive director of the Cortlandt Park Alliance and the Cortlandt Park Administrator of New York City Parks. Nice to have you with us, Stephanie. And also Nilka Martell, who is the founder and director of Loving the Bronx. Nice to have you with us, Nilka. And Elizabeth Quaranta, who's the acting executive director of Friends of Mosholu Parkland, which is an all grassroots, all volunteer nonprofit organization. Let's underscore all volunteer because we know what it takes to really keep our parks going. It ain't coming from above, it's coming from us. So anyway, let's start with you, Ms. Ehrlich. Let's talk about Cortlandt Park. How is Cortlandt Park doing? Right now. I mean, I can tell you, I still go out and it really re-energized my connection with the park, the pandemic, and the lake is beautiful. You keep some magical way. You keep the huge parade grounds clean and clear. The hiking trails are beautiful. I think it's going okay. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm partial. I think it's really okay.
Okay.
And so today, in fact, this is a photo of Cortlandt Park, but this is what the sky looked like today, that beautiful blue. It was just today is just a great day to be outside in the park. Every day is a great day, but today was one of those days where I was like, wow, I love what I do. And I think that, I saw staff out there mowing the lawns. We've got the giant parade ground that you're talking about that was getting mowed, and people are, trimming things and picking up garbage. And, the staff is really gung ho. And I think that they're feeling energized because we do have some seasonal staff this year. Last year at this time, there was that huge cut that you talked about, and that was very hard. That was very, very hard. And of course, with COVID, that was really, really difficult. Staff had it, but Parks Department staff and all of the folks that work in the park, including Alliance staff, we were out in the park the whole time, and we are devoted to making sure that the park looks good, green and clean for the Bronx. And,
For people like me who just need a really cool place to go.
yep.
That doesn't cost money also, let's be clear.
Free and open, all the time, no gates, just welcoming, 100% accessible. And, it's the Bronx's backyard. That's how I look at Van Cortlandt Park and all of our parks. This is where we're talking about people. I grew up in an apartment. Most people, here grew up in an apartment. You don't have a backyard. The parks are your backyard.
And I think my opening statement verified that, because where was I going to go? That kind of thing. Let's talk about programming. You've got some nice things going on. And again, I salute you and all your colleagues in the park and who work on the park, because it's not easy in this day and age. So tell me about 21 in 21. I guess it's 2021, right?
Yeah. So 21 miles in the year 2021. So you can walk, you can run, you can skip, you can do it however you want. We're encouraging you to get some exercise, get out in the park and do 21 miles in the park in 2021. You do not have to do it all in one shot. You can break it up. And when you join, go to vancortland.org and you join our fun challenge, you will get a whole bunch of swag. You'll get a Van Cortlandt Park sticker, and you'll get a gator, and you'll get all kinds of cute things. And when you finish it, you get a little patch that says that you completed the challenge.
All that swag is nice. The real gift is being able to stay fit, to have a reason to stay fit, and to literally partner with our parks. The other thing which is going to come up, because we're going to talk specifically about funding, you've got a big event coming up. You've got the lawn party coming up. Let's talk about that and what it is. Normally you have the Philharmonic comes to Van Cortlandt Park. That ain't going to happen, right? But you've come up with something else, right?
It's not going to happen this year, but we're talking with them, and we're very, very excited that they're already on board for 2022. So they will be back. And actually, we have something really wonderful happening.
Drum roll.
Hot off the press. There will be some films shown in the park, and I don't want to. So look for that. I won't say too much, but it'll encourage you to kind of keep checking our website to see what's coming, but something in June, which is
vancortland.org is how we do it. And Van Cortlandt has a T. Don't mess around. In the Bronx, it has a T. All right, let's go. We do love the Bronx, and loving the Bronx by name is Nilka Martell. Now we're shooting this on Thursday. It will air on next week, beginning Monday. But today, on Thursday, you cut the ribbon. So this is good news in our park. So tell me about what's going on and what'd you do today.
We're very excited. This morning, we cut the ribbon on both Virginia Park and Hugh Grant Circle, $10.3 million investment through the Parks Without Borders initiative. So last year during the pandemic, both of our parks were closed. And, again, just echoing what Stephanie said, when you live in a building, these parks are your backyards. So while our parks were closed due to construction, we started stewarding another park nearby, Chief Dennis Devlin, but it also gave us time to help build capacity with other groups and help out Pelham Bay Park and Starlight Park, where we actually did a 6-weekend cleanup series where we would go every Saturday night with volunteers and pick up trash.
I think your story of loving the Bronx is really an important one to tell, because you say, well, we did this, this, and this, but this isn't created because somebody created a system or an infrastructure. This was created because of you and people around you said, you know what, we got to do something, right? Just talk about what your passion is about Bronx parks, and even the work you're talking about at Virginia Park and Hugh Grant Circle.
So for me, it was a very personal story. I've lived in the same apartment my entire life across the street from Virginia Park and Hugh Grant Circle. And growing up, there were fenced off green spaces. So when you think about a park, you think about a place that you have access to. But that wasn't how I grew up. That wasn't the parks that were near me. So when we got involved in 2012 stewarding the park, we realized that a park that has a dedicated group has better chances for change. So we just, organized local volunteers in our area, and we just built a case for the park. And when the Parks Without Borders initiative came through, we worked with the community board and the elected officials to make sure that the Bronx was part of that initiative.
And, I have to tell you that this to me speaks really to the core of what the Bronx is about. We've had the phrase "don't dump on the Bronx" for a long time. But what has happened is over the years of generations, nobody's doing it for us. And we got to do it ourselves. And I think what you've done with Loving the Bronx is a perfect example of that. Now, I know you've got the initiative which we studied at length here a couple of weeks ago about capping the Cross Bronx Expressway. Is the vision really that we could actually put a roof over sections of the Cross Bronx and then put a park on top? I mean,
Correct.
It's a dream that is beyond comprehension, but nothing happens unless you dream it, right?
Correct. So when we started talking about capping the Cross Bronx, there actually wasn't a case study, but in 2018, a group of doctors at Columbia University penned a research paper on capping the Cross Bronx. So what they found was that there are 2.4 miles out of the 6.5 miles of the Cross Bronx that exist completely below grade, except that they're open on the top. So Virginia Park and Virginia Playground, in between these two parks is an open below grade portion. So when we started advocating for the park and we were successful in getting the Parks Without Borders grant, we started looking at the Cross Bronx and saying, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. If you're making a $10.3 million investment on one side and you have a playground on the other side, whichever park or playground you're in, you're breathing in the fumes that are created by the traffic in the Cross Bronx.
And I will tell you, this came up on our program, the thought of kids riding the swings and running through the playground and all that, because I've driven by there any number of times, that interchange between the Cross Bronx and the Bronx River Parkway. And then I realized, I said, wait a minute, if you're a child or anybody going through there, gee, I wonder how people get airborne diseases. I wonder how they get asthma. It's like we're feeding it to them. It's ridiculous. So this is what we're trying to stop, right?
Correct. So capping it would do a couple of things. It would reduce the air pollution, the noise pollution, and restitch communities that have been severed since the creation of the Cross Bronx. And the idea is to cap these areas and to create more parkland. So it would be 2 more miles of parkland. And who doesn't want more parks?
Yeah, I mean, come on. Now, listen, let's talk to Elizabeth Quaranta, because what she has done now, I have driven across Mosholu Parkway for years, for generations. I went to Dewey Clinton High School, so I know all about Mosholu Parkway from one end to the other. And it never occurred to me that this was usable parkland that had never had a definition. And Elizabeth Quaranta came aboard, founded Friends of Mosholu Parkland, and now all of a sudden it's an entity. It's a parks entity. So congratulations, Elizabeth, on doing what you have done. Talk to us a little bit about where you're at, and because I've seen there's plantings, there's flowers. It's really a transformation. Just talk to me in general about where you're at with Friends of Mosholu Parkland.
So that's right. We took the parkway out of Friends of Mosholu Parkway and put a parkland in there. And we have been volunteering / working our off. So trying to make the place really a destination, because it really, it's 14 enclaves. And it serves the neighborhood of Bedford, Mosholu, and Norwood, and all different types of economic backgrounds, culture, diversity, and we didn't want it to look like a parkway, anymore, because many of us use it. There's so many apartment buildings, and we don't have backyards, and so everyone goes to Mosholu Parkway, and we decided that we were going to put gardens in. With the help of parks and getting more volunteers, we ended up getting a couple of grants that allowed us to allocate different flower garden areas on the parkland, including a renovation of Kossuth Playground. So altogether, we have about 6 growing flower gardens on the parkland.
And if you if you ride by or walk by or bicycle by, you can see these lovely plantings all around the trees. I mean, really, it's a real transformation. Talk to me about the Keeper's House edible garden. This is literally raising what you just said to the next level.
Yeah, so we ventured into community development because taking care of the parkland begins with taking care of you, right? I mean, it has to come from inside in order for you to connect with nature. So we do believe in these connections, and the Keeper's House came from a 2-year pilot program, which the executive director of Jerome Gunhill Bid and Mosholu Preservation Corporation graciously allowed us to do. And because I was so successful, MPC looked for a grant, and I believe it was MPC along with Deutsche Bank who are working together to make this happen. It's an expansion of it, and both MPC and FAM, we have similar initiatives in the community to want to grow healthy food and be healthy. And so this year we decided to take this pilot program and literally expand out every nook and cranny of the Keeper's House garden.
And so I'm looking here. You have the installation of the PS8 schoolyard blacktop, which is an edible garden.
Yes, that's another one. So we're doing an edible garden on the Norwood side, but we're also doing a schoolyard edible
Tremendous
on the Bedford Park side.
One of the things that emerges, and then I'm going to ask Stephanie Ehrlich because she's a little bit different with the size of Van Cortlandt Park, is that the nature of community. Both Nilka and Elizabeth talked about having to bring community groups. They reached out to community boards, et cetera, et cetera. Van Cortlandt Park, because of its stature and its legacy, in a little bit of a different situation. So let's get to you, Ms. Ehrlich, and talk a little bit about funding. How do you get, especially with the kind of cuts we talked about, how do you get enough funding? You talked about having a big staff and which of course you need, 1,140 acres. How do you keep the thing going financially? And then we're going to ask our local park advocates the same kind of question.
So, so the Alliance provides educational programming in the park. We have internship programs working with Bronx students, mostly high school and college age. And we also do research in the park and maintain trails and waterways. We're environmental advocates and work with Nilka in other ways. And so we fund ourselves through initiatives like the 21 and 21, which is great. There's a $35 fee, which is very nominal. But also we have our lawn party coming up, which is our annual benefit event. And we're actually honoring Commissioner Silver, who will be stepping down from the Parks Department. And we are giving him the first annual Betty Campbell Adams Park Angel Award.
And that is named after Betty Campbell Adams.
Who was the proprietor of Lloyd's Carrot Cake in the Bronx, right across the street from the park. And very, very sadly, we lost Betty at the end of 2020. But she was a park angel. She herself always said that she and the park were one and the same. And I know that Commissioner Silver and Betty were friends. And so who better to be the first person to receive this award? And Betty's family is actually going to be with us at the lawn party. So I'm really looking forward to that. But this is a way, the lawn party is a way for us to raise necessary funds so that we can continue to have our staff working on volunteer efforts. And so we need staff to coordinate those efforts. And we saw an incredible increase in volunteerism this past year. People were coming out, and we implemented some regular volunteer days. So Monday mornings, Wednesday mornings, Friday mornings, and then select Saturdays and Sundays. And we've been working with our different communities, like Gary's saying, it's a huge park. So we've got lots of different communities along our perimeter, and we've been working to do a lot of cleaning up. And so please, if people want to come and join us, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, vancortlandt.org is the way to do it. But this really, you talked about, that you're getting more volunteers. So Nilka Martell, do you get more volunteers these days? I'm guessing people were inspired by parks during this pandemic like I was. Maybe we're getting there. So number one, let's talk about volunteers. And number two, let's really talk about funding, because whereas Cortlandt Park, I mean, it's an entity that everybody knows, loving the Bronx is not quite as, have that kind of legacy that Cortlandt Park does. You probably got to fight pretty hard to get the kind of support you need.
Yes. So
she says yes in a word. Yes.
Yes.
We do too.
That's true.
So we are much smaller than an alliance. An alliance is a model with a partnership with Parks Department. We are nowhere near that level. We have seen, due to the pandemic, that there are more people that want to volunteer. We always encourage folks when they talk to us and they complain about the condition of their park. We challenge them. We're like, okay, so what are you doing about it, right? Are you calling your city council member? Are you volunteering at a park? And that's how you just get people engaged. So far as funding, we actually do our work off of very little funding, donations that come in from the community, and most of the equipment that we have are in-kind donations that folks give us. But I feel, being a small group, right? Like we don't have a staff. I do understand that when you have an alliance or you have a larger not-for-profit, a lot of directors can't go to sleep at night thinking, hey, how are we going to reach payroll? We don't have that problem yet, but
wouldn't it be nice?
It would be nice. I'm not saying that we don't want it, but right now it doesn't deter us from not doing the work simply because we're not funded.
What is similar from what Stephanie Ehrlich said versus what you said, despite the obvious differences, is the need is great. The reach out for volunteers, the reach out for donations is universal for all our parks. I'm going to say this out loud. You can be sure I will be asking when we get to debate season before the primary. We're going to have a whole new city council in the Bronx, and they all better pony up and be ready to support our parks. That's what Gary says, and I'm going to make sure that we ask that question. Elizabeth, you talked to me about the kind of the volunteerism is one thing. Is there funding out there?
So the funding that we do get is through the grants. Right now, FUMP is all volunteers, and because our projects and programming are impactful in the community, we now have to focus on sustainability so that we can continue the work and keep it going and be part of that social economic loop. We did partner up with the Central Park Conservancy Partnership Lab, which is a 9-month fellowship program, and we're going to be using their resources to help build capacity, plan, develop, and expand so that we can continue doing what we're doing, but sustainably. We have pretty organized. We're not an alliance. We're far from that. We're still grassroots. We still have the volunteers. We do have a dedicated volunteer staff, though. And we've been that way for the past over 5 years. So we do have a grant writer, and he's been awesome when it comes to getting our grants. We also take service contracts as a subcontractor through the bid and through other nonprofit organizations. Mm-hmm.
Let's start with you in this round, Elizabeth. Let's just talk about challenges. Aside from funding, we get that. But I know that there are issues with barbecuing over there, that people, there's ways to do it and ways not to do it. There's issues with garbage. Talk to me about the kinds of challenges that you and your colleagues deal with. And we'll ask each of our parks advocates to address that in their own circumstance.
Well, I think the challenges that we have really is how to relate these park rules to our community.
And communication.
Yes, communication. And there's a way of doing it. And if it wasn't, you can't, we're always we're always saying, don't do this, you can't do that. And so now we do more public education. The signs are no longer no barbecues. The signs are protect our wildlife. protect that clean air.
Because if I can just interject, because then you come across as negative and you just want to be positive. You want to welcome people to the park. You don't want to say, don't do this, don't do this. But of course, and I'm sure this is universal for everybody, don't leave garbage. I mean, please, there are receptacles. Let's deal with that. So start, and of course that then runs into maintenance and all these other things, which all three of you know very well. Nilka, challenges for you and the parks that you work with?
I think one of the biggest challenges that we've come up is the mental health population. For far too long, the government has looked at it like if it's a homelessness situation. But at Virginia Park, prior to the renovations, everything that we do is really relationship based. So we became friendly with the people that were sleeping in the park, to later find out that they're not homeless. They have apartments nearby. They just don't know how to live on their own. They don't know how to pay bills. They need particular social services. So when I look at our local government and I see the amount of money that's going into the homelessness crisis, it's really a shame, because that money really needs to be redirected into mental health services.
What an amazing connection. People would say, wait a minute, why is a parks advocate talking about that? But that, of course, affects the quality of life, the quality of the park, and it shows the interactivity that is necessary to have, a successful city. Let's put it that way. Stephanie Ehrlich, what do you think? What are the challenges, the many challenges that you have to deal with every day?
I would say communication is really a challenge also, because it's such a huge park. How do we convey information to our park users is a challenge for us. And, we have some of the same issues. We have homeless people in the park. We have people with mental health issues in the park. We have all kinds of, we have trash issues. We have barbecues. We have motorbikes and e-bikes. Then also we have folks who want to just have a party in the park, and they don't realize that by having a piñata, attaching it to a tree, they might be doing damage to the tree, or that cleaning up all the wonderful glitter and confetti that comes out of a piñata will take us weeks to clean up.
Right.
So, it's just like, then we become such Grinches, because it's like, oh gosh, no piñatas, no balloons. But that's a very, very hard thing, because we don't want to be negative.
And so it's the same kind of thing. You want to communicate. I'm a communications guy. This is what we do. We're gonna have to put our heads together and think about how to really get these messages out. I don't have an answer for you yet. So listen, just before we run out of time, let's give each of you like 15 or 20 seconds to talk about what you have coming up and what you want people to know about. Let's promote. Let's stay good, stay positive. Let's promote the good things. So we'll start with you, Nilka Martell. What's coming up? What do you want people to know?
So we resumed programming our Fun Friday series at Virginia Park on June 25th. We'll be kicking it off at 5 p.m. with a walking tour, and at 6 p.m. through 8 p.m. Virginia Park, and we'll have some live music. So you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's just Loving the Bronx.
Loving the Bronx. Don't we love everybody here loves the Bronx. Elizabeth Quaranta, what do you think as far as what do you got coming up? What do you want people to know?
So we're still working at growing food at the Keeper's House. So if anyone wants to learn how to grow food, you're welcome to come by Monday through Sunday. It's 7 days a week, 10 to 3. The address is 3400 Reservoir Oval. And also we're pushing, we have a new councilman. So we're going to be pushing the schoolyard edible garden and Mosholu playground over there where he's at.
I just want to give Stephanie Ehrlich a shot. Give us 20 seconds and tell us what you got coming up.
Sure. So our lawn party on June 24th, volunteer opportunities, all days, all kinds of things happening, and also 21 and 21, which we talked about. But a very important thing is the Playfair Coalition. Go to New Yorkers for Parks and look at their website. Sign up to testify on behalf of parks. Our New York City parks get 0.5% of the overall city budget. That's
ridiculous. And especially given which we have identified in this program. Listen, we got to go. Yep. Stephanie Ehrlich from VCP, Nilka Martell from Loving the Bronx, Elizabeth Quaranta from Friends of Mosholu Parkland. Thank you for what you do. We need you. That's
Thank
all.
you, Gary.
So we got to go. Debate season is coming up. Stay with us on BronxNet and BronxTalk. So we'll see you then. Good night.